From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Welcome, everybody, to SportsLine. John Burton with you for the next hour. We are happy to have you here. 615-737-7767 is the number to call. We're going to talk a lot about the Titans, and we'll get into some Vandy basketball talk as well. Adam Sparks from the Tennessean, who covers Vanderbilt Athletics, is going to join us next segment. But first, we'll get an update on the Titans and everything else going on in the state of Tennessee as it pertains to sports. We bring in our good friend Teresa Walker from the Associated Press. Teresa, how are you? Happy New Year. Thanks for coming on.
I am good, John. How are you doing?
I know you're a busy woman. You got a hockey game to get to with your son, so we'll keep this moving. Well, obviously the NFL coaching search it goes on for the Tennessee Titans, but things are starting to fall into place a little bit. More candidates are dropping off the tree, if you will. Adam Gase goes to the Dolphins. Hugh Jackson signed by the Cleveland Browns tonight. And breaking news: the Giants are going to stick with their offensive coordinator Ben McAdoo. He's going to be their new head coach. They're going to keep Steve Spagnuolo as their defensive coordinator. What does all this mean for the Tennessee Titans? I know Malarkey gets his shot to interview tomorrow, right? And then it'll be Terrell Austin on Friday, correct?
And it looks like Doug Marrone, another Buffalo Bills head coach, is going to get a chance reportedly tomorrow afternoon, according to ESPN. I have not been able to confirm that one just yet, but that's very interesting for all the people who are like, Malarkey, his record as a head coach ain't that great. Well, Doug Marrone is a guy, another Buffalo Bills head coach, but he's got those local ties. He's a former assistant coach at the University of Tennessee, the son-in-law of Boots Donnelly of MTSU. And, he's a guy who opted out of his contract in Buffalo last year, interviewed for some jobs last year, John, and didn't get a job. So he went to Jacksonville as assistant head coach, and so now it looks like he's resurfacing, and they're finally getting into the coaching situation. I know Titan fans are very anxious. They want to know what's going on. Why haven't we done anything? And hey, the Browns introduced Hugh Jackson today. They don't have a general manager just yet. So
right.
The Titans have interviewed 6 guys. The last known interview was Monday, but they're not exactly moving quickly to make a hire. So it's very interesting to see what they're going to end up doing. But if you're a Titans fan, you got to be happy that they're finally about to start talking to somebody about being a coach.
Yeah, what about the GM search? They've brought, as you said, a number of guys in. Any indications they might be closer to naming a new GM?
There's been no indications. When John Robinson of the Bucs kind of interviewed a day or two later, there was some tweets coming from Tampa Bay that he thought that it might be coming to a decision in the next couple days, and then there was a tweet saying, "Oh no, not really." So there's been no indication of what timeline that the Titans are moving on. All we know for sure: President and CEO Steve Underwood, Amy Adams Strunk, the controlling owner, Kenneth Adams on the board of directors and based here in Nashville these days, and since 2006, and then Vin Marino, that they're the ones kind of in this interview process. As far as timing, Lord, nobody knows, and trust me, it feels a little bit like watching for the election of a new pope, hoping and waiting, like puff of smoke, that they've made a decision on one of these fronts at least.
Right. Teresa Walker from the Associated Press is our guest here on SportsLine. Teresa, let's go back to Mike Malarkey. He's scheduled to have his shot at interviewing for the head coaching job tomorrow. Realistically, what are the chances that the Titans stick with him and make him their permanent head coach?
Well, I know Titan fans don't want to hear this, but, you look at his record, yes, 2-7. We heard Steve Underwood talk about wins and losses matter, that it's a bottom-line business. Well, 2-7, but, guess what? The NFL missed a couple calls at the end of the Oakland game. Otherwise, Titans might have had a win there. And if not for a special teams mistake at Jacksonville, Marcus Mariota was sacked trying to throw into the end zone to win that game. Easily could have been 4-5 as a head coach, with no bye week, no ability to change the coaching staff, change the schemes, or do anything at that point. It was more just trying to do little small things where you could around the margins. We don't know how much he may have impressed Amy Adams Strunk during that interim, but it wasn't an easy situation. So it was kind of you got to see him maybe at the worst of times trying to coach that team. And you and I were there in the locker room. Players asked about would they like to see Mike Mularkey come back. I didn't talk to a single player who didn't want him back.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had fans tell me on Twitter, well, we don't want a player, coach that players just like. That's not what they like about him. They like that he is a coach who puts them in position so that they can do their best. And, he doesn't cover up for guys. If a guy doesn't do well, guess what? He goes to the next guy and gives him a chance to show that he can do a better job. I mean, we saw that when Bishop Sankey was benched, and Antonio Andrews got his chance when he struggled. David Cobb got a chance. Up and down the line, he was making changes, especially on the offensive line. Unfortunately, they're late in the season. There's just not enough bodies to maybe do more of that. So I don't know. I mean, it's a very, very good question. Do you hire a GM and say, hey, this is going to be your coach? I know a lot of people are panicking, but we don't know what their approach is going to be. They've interviewed these 6 GMs. You've got to think that if they're leaning toward keeping a Mike Mularkey, that one of the questions has been, what are your thoughts on Mike Mularkey? And do you think, what do you think of him as being a coach? So, we would hope that those questions have been asked. We don't know for sure.
Yeah, the Titans doing a really good job of keeping everything close to the vest. All right, Teresa, if you're a potential head coaching candidate, how attractive is the Titans' job? Obviously a great city. You and I both know that. Franchise quarterback already in place. There is some semblance of talent on this roster. How attractive is the Titans' job, do you think, for a potential head coach?
Well, I'll say this. You've got the number 1 pick as well coming up.
That's right. Yep.
in the draft in April, and you've got over $20 million in cap space. So if you could, it's a very attractive job. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's the worst job in the NFL. No, it's not. It's one of 32 jobs in the NFL. And guess what? The media market, if you're going to go coach a team, do you want to deal with the New York media? Do you want to deal with the Nashville media? It's not like we're attacking every single word. I know that the most recent head coach kind of like to say things like, we were a very, what was the word he used, John?
He said we were pessimistic and negative, and and I think a lot of that filtered onto his players, quite honestly, which I wasn't a big fan of.
Well, and that's the thing. We're not pessimistic. I mean,
right.
I'm sorry, but we need wins to be able to talk about.
Right, win, and we'll talk positively about you, right?
Yeah, we're in the business of nonfiction, which means news. We don't make this stuff up. We report on what we see. So, but that's the thing. You're not going to have people, doing gotcha stuff and attacking every little piece of news that you're making. We're trying to do our jobs here, and we're not doing things just for shock value. So, you mix all those things together, and then, oh yeah, there's going to be a paycheck at the end of it. The Titans paid Ken Wisenhunt $5 million a year and paid him to go away after a year and a half. So the report that he's going to be now going back to San Diego as the offensive coordinator. Well, guess what? We don't know. Was there offset language in his contract? He may be double dipping, getting that full $5 million each of the next 3 years plus what he makes in San Diego. That's not cheap. So and guess what? We've seen what this market can do when you win. When you win, stadium's packed, merchandise is flying off the shelves, and people couldn't be happier. And you can win in this market because you're in the AFC South. And guess what? Yes, there's Andrew Luck, but there's also Houston and Jacksonville. If you're a coach, how do you not see opportunity with this market, John?
Oh, no question about it. Speaking of Houston, I really had issue with what they did in their wild card playoff game. They're in a position to get back in this game against the Chiefs the other day. And almost as a way to appease and to showcase J.J. Watt, they put him in the backfield on a shotgun snap, and they run him up the middle. This is a playoff game. This isn't a preseason game. I had a big problem with what Bill O'Brien did the other day. How about you?
Well, that's the thing. They've made kind of they kind of copied that Belichick thing, using defensive guys on offense. And, J.J. Watt caught the touchdowns last year.
Right.
They've done this an awful lot. But that's the problem when you go to the well a little too often. Sometimes you run that risk of getting an injury. Now, maybe it's just timing and everything, but, guess what? It just doesn't look good when you're in that situation. But you know what? It also didn't look good sticking with Brian Hoyer as long as they did. Maybe if they'd gone to Brandon Whedon early, maybe they'd have had a chance to change that entire good game. And then, hey, you want to go back, John, go back to last year. They used the number 1 pick overall. On defense, on Jadeveon Clowney, that's almost a luxury for a team that has J.J. Watt, Brian Cushing, Whitney Merciless, and some of those guys, and especially a team that started 4 different quarterbacks this year.
We're talking with Teresa Walker. I wanted to get your thoughts real quick on the Memphis Grizzlies. I've been catching a couple of their games. Seems like they've been doing a little bit better, especially at home. What do you think about Zebo coming off the bench? He seems to Zach Randolph seems to be okay with it, and they seem to have pretty good flow to their offense. He's still getting his points, getting his rebounds. Do you think Memphis can go on a run here and make some noise in the West in the NBA?
Well, I think they're still working through a few issues, John. But, Zach Randolph coming off the bench, he's doing, that double-double stuff. Now I think they're starting a campaign I'm reading about today about, Zebo for 6th Man of the Year award, which would be kind of interesting. But, that's the thing. He understands where he's at, 34 years old. He's trying to make sure that, they're trying to save a few minutes on his body so that he can be a little fresher, and he seems to be embracing that. But they still have issues shooting and getting some ball. They've got some injuries. Mike Conley's missing games now with an Achilles issue. So it's going to be very – and shoot, last night Dave Yeager benches Jeff Green for the entire second half and made it very clear it was not discipline, it was not an injury. So, lots of scuttlebutt out of Memphis that, okay, might as well trade him now and get him out of here. So a lot of intrigue. But you know what? They're at a point in the season. They played the toughest part of their schedule when they got through Christmas. But this is definitely the part of the year where they need to be racking up some wins, making sure they hold on to that, at least, they're 6th right now in the West. Hold on to that spot, see if maybe they can push up to 5. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. A year ago, I thought they absolutely had a chance to go as deep as they could. This year, I think they're still figuring a couple things out.
Teresa, I could talk to you all day. You know all and you tell all. Teresa Walker from the Associated Press. So great to have you on. And enjoy your little guy's hockey game tonight. We appreciate a few minutes.
Thank you, John, so much.
All right, Teresa Walker joining us here on SportsLine. Let's get a phone call in real quick. Our first phone call on the Wednesday extravaganza from my frenemy. He's not my friend. He's not my enemy. He's Philip in Nashville. Philip, what's up? Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year. You get entirely too much vacation. Entirely.
Hey, I work hard for it, Philip. How are you, man? What's going on?
I got 2 things. How much time do we have?
We got about, a couple minutes.
Okay. The Titans,
Yeah.
first off, and then I want to get to the national championship game.
Okay.
The Titans, how can you be an owner of an NFL team and not go to the – how can Teresa Walker not report on the fact that the owner of the Titans did not attend the NFL owners meeting when they're in Houston? It was in Houston.
Well, there's a lot going on here in Nashville. They're looking for a GM and a head coach. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah. She's so engaged.
All right. Move on to your national championship point. I'm not going to get into the Amy Adams Strunk debate with you.
You're not allowed to rip on this pathetic ownership that will sell this team. I don't care if they're for sale right now or not. They're selling this team. They have no business being NFL owners.
Okay, what do you got in the national championship?
All right. 2 things you need to know about me.
Yeah.
Or make my point.
Yep.
Number 1, I don't have cable.
Okay.
The reason I don't have cable is because I love to golf.
Okay.
A cable bill will cost me a round of golf.
Gotcha.
So I would rather go
What's your
golfing.
handicap, Philip?
I shoot about a 82.
Okay. All right.
Second thing is when I need to watch a game because it's not on cable, I have to go to a bar.
Right.
I drink top shelf liquor.
Of course you do.
Very, very expensive.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
To spend 3-4 hours at a bar to watch a sporting event.
Right.
I'll go watch my Cowboys when they're rarely not on television.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking college now.
Right.
Here's my question.
Sure.
On Saturday, ESPN got to cover the NFL wildcard game.
Right.
The game was on both ESPN and ABC.
That is correct. Why couldn't they do that for the national championship game? I couldn't agree with you more. They should have.
Such a big deal.
Yep.
I mean, so what I'm understanding is an NFL wild card game is more important than a college football championship game. It makes no sense, and ESPN is absolutely ruining college football.
Well, yeah, you know what? They're getting cute with it because ABC is saying, okay, we don't have to preempt our primetime programming, and people could, because our cable sports station happens to be ESPN, we'll just put the game over there, and then we can keep our ESPN primetime programming. No, I agree with you. National championship should have been on over-the-air regular TV. I agree with that 100%. Especially the way this game, it was a great game, one of the best championship games you'll ever see. And you're right, not a lot of people are like you. They choose not to have cable because of, they'd like to spend their money on other things, golf or whatever it is. I agree with you. That should have been on regular over-the-air television and not cable or simulcast, because it was on every ESPN format. I can tell you that. It was on ESPNU, ESPN. It was on the SEC network. It was on, you name an ESPN platform, and it was on. So I agree with that. We agree on something. We're starting the new year off right, Philip.
We agree on a lot of things, but we keep hearing about college football so huge.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that ABC, the sister station of ESPN,
right,
determined that more people would watch The Bachelor than watch that game?
Yeah, no, you're right.
There's something fishy, very fishy, and very, very sad going on. ESPN is ruining a whole lot of stuff.
In many ways they are, Philip.
Miserable year.
I got to let you go, my man. Happy New Year. Thanks for calling, all right?
Love you.
All right, love you too, man. It's the one and only Philip in Nashville with takes only he can have. Let's take a break. We'll talk to Adam Sparks of the Tennessean next. Talk some Vandy basketball. Stay with us.